You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we have good news if you are an England fan. Finally, the batters have turned up. Johnny Bairstow, young Johnny Bairstow, or old Johnny Bairstow, middle-aged Johnny Bairstow, racks up a century. He becomes, I think, Max, the third highest number of centuries maker from England. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Do you want to put that into an acronym?
Yeah. That we've had since 2000, behind Vaughan and somebody else who I don't care about. It's all looking like roses. England are going to draw. The 4-0 is over. Or the 5-0 is on. The 4-0 is on. The 5-0 is over. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe Brown, who has got a Stuart Broad style headband on. How are you doing, Max?
Yeah, well, I did some exercise this morning, and my hair is far too long, so I had to have a headband to keep the hair out of my face, and straight onto the pod after that.
Very good.
So
and
that's the explanation.
And after a test off, rest and rotation on the Cricket Podcast, we've got Dan Weston. How are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, I am good. I don't have the same problem as Max, though, with hair in my head.
Cool. Before we get going, we will have a quick word from our sponsor for this test, Serious Cricket. Get 10% off your cricket equipment using the code TCP10 at seriouscricket.co.uk. Head over there now. You can browse and listen to the pod all in one go and get yourself ready for the new season. Max, Ross isn't here to do his read today, but he has left it to you. So in your capable hands rests this key message.
The sponsorship message. Yes. Well, yeah, so Serious Cricket, they've seen the light and sponsored our daily shows, offering 10%, as Jack said, with code TCP10 on their website. So, if you're like us, you'll be turning your attention to winter nets in the season ahead, but you don't want to turn up without some new gear, do you? Some new shiny shoes, or maybe you can finally buy a box so you don't have to use Team Box, which is a real problem in I Don't Like Cricket Club. So that's something to think about. And we've had the pleasure of the Cricket Podcast affiliate cricket team. I Don't Like Cricket Club has had the pleasure of wearing the Serious Cricket gear since we started. It's excellent, and the kit's excellent, and the service has always been really good as well. So can't say enough good stuff about them. And and next day delivery in the UK as well, and overseas shipping if needed. And
yeah.
Shall I move on to the other messages then?
Do the message.
Do the whole lot.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell button because that tells you what we're doing apparently. And then head over to Instagram and Twitter at the Cricket Pod. Get in touch, ask your questions, and Patreon is patreon.com/the Cricket Pod, where you can get your questions answered, guaranteed answering of questions, IPL data, and possibly some new offerings. As we start the new year, as we look to expand our Patreon,
our media empire.
Yeah.
we had another Patreon. I'll read that out a little later in the show. I don't have it up in front of me. Someone else signed up yesterday, so that's good. Be the next person to sign up. Help run the Cricket Podcast. You're the lifeblood of what we do here. And I don't think I said it at the top of the show. We're going to talk a little bit about South Africa v India and the historic win for the Proteas. As people have been saying, it was a really good test match and a really good battle by Dean Elgar and the boys. But we'll do the Ashes first, because as Paul Newman says in the chat, some fight from England, but too late unfortunately. But let's talk about the fight, Max. What happened?
Well, Jack, yesterday Ross and I were on team England are going to get blown away, and you were on team Zach Crawley's going to score 100 and it's all going to be fine. We were kind of both wrong and both right at the same time, weren't we? England got completely blown away and they ended up 36 for 4. Joe Root's New Year's resolution is to not score any runs because he got a bit bored of doing that last year. Milan snaffled down the leg side, and our openers can't play a straight ball properly. Left us in a little bit of a pickle. And the other thing you said yesterday was that perhaps the luck has turned. Perhaps this is the time for England to have all their luck. And I think Ben Stokes used all of it up in one go, being dropped by Pat Cummins, being bowled but not actually out as the bail wasn't removed, and that allowed him to put together a battling 50 whilst fighting off a a nasty looking side strain, and Johnny Bairstow, young middle-aged Johnny Bairstow, wonderful century for him. The first time anyone has, any English player has managed that this series, and a pretty impressive innings all around. Took the fight to the Aussies towards the end as the wickets were running out. Looked solid against Nathan Lyon as well. It was a good innings from Johnny Bairstow and very much needed to save England from what was looking like being a very, very embarrassing day out once again. And a little bit of a rearguard action from Mark Wood, who decided to pepper sixes off Pat Cummins, becoming the first person to score 3 sixes off Pat Cummins in a Test innings. That's a nice accolade for him. Saw England through the day. Who'd have thought? England batted a day against Australia. 258 for 7. 2 days left. Rain around. And like you say, Jack, you think draw's got to be the favourite now? Well, it is the favourite. It's the 70% favourite. But we can still mess it up, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, look, there's 6 sessions to go. I reckon we're going to lose at least 1 to rain. If they can bat for 10 overs in the morning, it's almost over, isn't it? No, that's the dream. The dream is on from an England perspective. Dan, we talk a lot about weird selections and so on, and Bairstow sort of been on that list of players that we've been curious about. Like, what is the justification for this man that keeps failing to be in the team? Has he answered us? Has he answered our strongest? Has he answered his strongest critics?
You know where I'm going with this one.
No, I don't know. Yes, yeah, you're going to take it back. So I'm sorry, Bairstow. Is that where you're going?
Oh, I'm not, actually. First of all, point of order, I'm not giving England credit for batting the day. They only batted 65 overs. So, I mean, I know it's like 25.
They batted 5 overs yesterday.
Yes, I'm saying 70 total, so 65 to play. It's not full day, it's 2 sessions pretty much. So, I mean, I suppose England fans are going to take any satisfaction where they can get it, and that's what they've done with Johnny Bairstow. I mean, Twitter this morning is a blaze of comments saying, well, you know, I always back Johnny Bairstow. What a great player, and all this stuff, this complete after timing. And I don't really see it. For me, the Twitter celebrations of Bairstow is the equivalent of going mad over a footballer scoring a worldie when his team was 3-0 down, having already been relegated. But yeah, I also want to talk a bit about the probability distribution curves. I think we've spoken about that bit before. And basically, if you average, say, 30 in Test cricket, you will have X% of chance of scoring 100 in a match, probably like 5% or something like that. And that will rise. If you average 40, you'll have a higher percentage chance of scoring 100. Now, because a 5% event happens, it doesn't really make you any better or much better than when you started. I mean, so for example, let's say Bairstow had an expected average of 30. He might have a 5% chance of scoring a ton. Now he might have an expected average of like 32, and he might have like a 5.3% chance of scoring a ton in his next innings. So it doesn't really make any impact on whether I think a player is a good player or a bad player, or whether they answer their critics or they don't answer their critics. The only way that they can answer their critics is consistent performance, and he hasn't done that. So let's see if he can do this. We know that now that having scored an unbeaten ton, will definitely play about 3 more series. So we'll see.
I was just looking at his stats on Cricket Info. I hadn't realised how much he played. He played 10 tests in 2019, 9 in 2021, averaged 18.5 and 24.4. On that trajectory, though, if he gets 33% better each year, average of 32, 33 this year, that would be good. So, Max, I'm calling it now. It's the year of Bairstow.
Right.
By the time he's 40, he's going to be averaging more than Don Bradman.
Max, over to you. Bairstow, I mean, for the points Dan's making, which are good, and we should acknowledge that this particular innings was well played by him, particularly against Nathan Lyon. Right, he if he has a strength in Test cricket, it is spin bowling, not at Ahmedabad.
No one's strength.
And he punished Lyon. I think, you know, before he got on his way to 50, he scored most of his boundaries off of Nathan Lyon, and actually for once put the Australian spinner under a bit of pressure in this series.
Yeah, we have to congratulate Johnny Bairstow for his 100 because he did score it, and it was a good one. It doesn't mean, as Dan says, doesn't mean we have to then go around and say, well, he scored this 100, now he's the man to fill that order, because that would be to dispense of all the evidence that we've accrued over the last 2 years, as you said. And also, I do love starting a Friday morning with discussions about probability distribution curves. That's a lovely way to start. With England, it wasn't really there wasn't much there for Nathan Lyon, was there? It wasn't going to be one of the more troubling days of Nathan Lyon, and those are the days where England's batsmen need to perform like that and get on top of it. A little bit like what KP said, possibly a little more measured than what KP said on Twitter, which was someone needs to batter Nathan Lyon or whatever. It might be easy for KP with what he was. With his qualities against off-spin, England's middle order less so. But Johnny Bairstow came in and he did do that. He got on top of him. He used his feet well. He kept the runs ticking. Scored. Reasonably frequent boundaries. Put the pressure on Nathan Lyon, and that's what England really need to do in those situations. Because he's there to tie up that end and allow Australia to rotate those fast bowlers and keep them fresh and cause England trouble. So if you take that option away, it removes, well, I guess plan A for the middle overs for Australia. So that's the importance of I guess understanding the situation in the game, and Bairstow did that very well. So plaudits to him.
5.9 and over. Lyon went for today, 71 from 12 overs. So he did not tie that end down. That's
Bessian statistics.
Yes, it is. The other England batter to score runs was Ben Stokes, who's, I don't want to say a maligned figure on this tour, but people had started to question why he was there, if he was injured or not quite firing. He was definitely injured last night, but he produced the goods. 9 fours, 1 6 in a total of 66. He was dealing mainly in boundaries there.
Every one of those looked painful, didn't it?
Yeah. Real grit and determination from him, isn't it, Max? Or wasn't it, Max?
Yeah, well, you could see visibly the pain he was in, especially the heave-ho shots, pull shots, and the leg side. Wouldn't say swats, and I wouldn't say drives. Somewhere in between. Every time he was grimacing and pulling up, and the fact that he was not only the fact that he was able to carry on, but the fact that he was able to carry on and score 66. But it's a testament to him and his character. But we shouldn't be surprised, because if for Ben Stokes, that's what he does, isn't it? He's a fighter. Whatever you say about him coming into the side on the back of not really having any cricket and all that time off, he was never going to not give everything and put it all on the line. And I suppose in a situation like England, where maybe they can say they expected to win the Ashes, but did anyone really expect us to win the Ashes? A bit of fight and guts in the middle of the team is probably well needed. So from that point of view, worth having him around. I'm surprised Australia didn't do a bit more though to try and capitalise on the fact that he was clearly struggling. They still bowled quite full a lot, which was about the only place he could hit the ball without being in pain. I'm surprised there wasn't a bit more in it, his sort of ribs and that kind of thing.
Maybe Australia are bored of winning. We shouldn't discount that. Subconsciously, obviously, they're not actually like, oh, Christ, we're gonna win again, are we? No, but maybe subconsciously, right, let's give them a chance. A chance they didn't give earlier in the day, as they reduced England to 33 for 4, or 36 for 4, rather 3 6s. What's the difference? Scott Boland picked up 2 more wickets. Dan, was he a player on your radar? We were talking about how he sort of seemingly came from nowhere to dominate at the MCG. Bowled really well again here at Sydney.
Yeah, yes and no. In terms of being on my radar, he's someone I know has had some pretty decent domestic numbers for a couple of years. But at the end of the day, he's almost 33 years old. So the chances of a career breakthrough are pretty low. Obviously he's seized his chances. He's done amazing given the opportunities he's had. But do I see him being a long-term Test player? Probably not.
I think that's fair, but we should enjoy it while it's happening. I think because he seems
it's
to be,
always great.
yeah.
It's always great to see like this like unheralded guy come out and do really, really well. I mean, wouldn't it be great to see Darren Stevens do the same for England?
Imagine, well, like imagine it's not.
I think we should give him a game, a testimonial game.
I don't disagree, Max. What were you gonna say, Dan?
But this is the thing. So Australia are picking the players who are especially at the MCG were most suitable for the task at hand. Whereas England are picking players for like 4 years' time, which is a series they're probably going to lose anyway.
I have wondered this. I have genuinely wondered this recently, looking around the world and how doctored some home pitches are and how difficult it is to win away. Why England don't just fully lean into like 4 75-mile-an-hour dibbly-dobblers and make it completely different to cricket anywhere else on the globe.
Yeah, get like Darren Stevens, Chris Rushworth, and a few others.
Yeah,
and,
maybe that's the answer. Maybe instead of making the county championship more like cricket in Australia, they should make Test cricket more like cricket in the county championship.
Well, considering England are bottom of the World Test Championship at the moment, maybe it's a solution to get them off the bottom of that at least.
Max, did you fear the worst at 36 for 4, or were you confident that England would dig themselves out of that hole?
I had every confidence in Johnny Bairstow to see us through to the end of the day, Jack. As you know, I'm a massive fan of his selection in the side. It was pretty bad, wasn't it? It did not look good. I think perhaps the turning point was Ben Stokes getting bowled
and not being out.
And not being out.
I said yesterday,
that's
the great
probably
reversal.
The moment where you thought maybe England might have a sniff, because they're the sorts of things, aren't they? I mean, obviously we're going far away from logic and how things in the world actually work. But every now and then you get one of those moments that does sort of focus the mind a bit and gets people to actually start concentrating and playing proper cricket. Unlike the first 4 wickets that England lost, which, I mean, let's be honest, they weren't got out, were they? Milan, maybe.
Yeah.
But ironically, the only one you could possibly argue got out was Milan, because there was a trap set there, and it worked.
Milan got a real going over by Green there. That was he was a few short balls, wrapped him on the gloves, and eventually got him strangled down the leg side. That was actually quite good bowling.
The others, Hamid, just no.
Hamid was dropped. I don't think it was quite the ball before, but he was dropped just before he was bowled.
Roy was out off a no ball yesterday anyway.
Yep.
It's looking.
It's pretty bad, isn't it?
It's looking less and less likely that Hamid's going to be a long-term solution for England. I can't see him even going to the West Indies, and
this was obvious. This was obvious before he was even picked.
Yeah,
he was going to struggle in this series. It didn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out. And when you people talk about the definition of insanity being doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, this is almost like an upgraded version of that, where you're picking players with no logic whatsoever and expecting different results.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him. I can't see what he's supposed to do, because his game's so obviously not suited to where he is playing.
And this is the whole point. At no stage do I ever say that that's his fault. It's their fault for putting him in a situation where he's likely to fail.
Yeah, it's an interest, isn't it? I mean, particularly if you look at the 2 openers, all this planning that's gone in, it's another area where I don't know if they bottled it at the last minute or what exactly has happened, but clearly England had a plan from early in 2020 to have Dom Sibley and Rory Burns opening the batting for this series, and now we've got Zach Crawley and Hasib Hamid. I mean, Crawley might have been in there as number 3 or a backup opener. He wasn't out of the picture completely. I mean, they obviously think Crawley's a project player that's worth persisting with. I don't know if that they're correct, but he's not outside of the plan. But I don't think at any point they expected Hasib Hamid to be there, and he looked pretty undercooked.
There's two big problems there, aren't there? The first one is that I kind of agree with Stuart Broad in that you're like, why are you planning 2 years and ahead with this kind of thing. Like, who knows what can happen in 2 years? I mean, we've had 2 years of a fucking pandemic. Like, having a 2-year plan for the Ashes doesn't really fit with that. I think you kind of just have to sort of see how things, maybe a 1-year plan, but 2 years is pushing it. And then the other thing is, if you're going to have a 2-year plan, stick to your guns at least, and don't then throw in, like you say, Hasib Hamid, who came in for a couple of tests at the end of the summer as a reactionary move, and that hasn't given him the opportunity, given what we've said about the obvious difficulty he's going to have playing in Australia with low hands and all the rest. You haven't given him an opportunity to practice some things that might make it a bit easier for him to play in Australia, because we've just suddenly decided, oh, you're going to Australia now, despite the fact that we were planning to be doing something completely different. But they've got it, both sides of it, if they've got wrong. Like planning for 2 years and then not actually following through with that plan. Although I still think the 2-year plan, Jack, was we're going to Australia with Archer and Wood, and that's it. That's all. That's the only plan.
The whole plan.
That was the plan.
You're right. Archer, Wood, Stone. That would probably have been their plan. Unfortunately, well, especially with the case of the latter two, but also Archer to some degree, relying on 3 players who are extremely injury prone.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I think that is all correct. I do want to take a second to talk about Stuart Broad outburst. Was it an outburst or what Stuart Broad said yesterday? Which was effectively, you can I'll read it out. You can just dissect loads on this trip, but first innings runs is where you live in Test cricket. We failed to deliver that. It doesn't matter what bowlers you play if you're getting bowled out for 140. That might be a bit brutal, but that's the truth in Test cricket. He also said, instead of looking ahead at what is coming next year in the winter, the next Ashes series, actually, can we get back to the real basics of what's ahead of us right now? Sometimes when your brain leads you too far away from what's in front of you, you're not focused on delivering what you need to deliver in that test. We don't know what the world of cricket is going to look like in June or next November, but can we win tomorrow and the next opportunity that is in front of us? That should be the real focus for the England cricket team going forward. It's well and good planning for the Ashes or the next away Ashes, looking at the World Test Championship, but if you don't win the battle in front of you, it's irrelevant. Max, that's pretty extraordinary, isn't it, for your senior player to come out and effectively hose the whole the whole batting unit,
the entire
the management. Yeah, what is this? Is he angling for the job? Maybe that's why he wants to retire. Or maybe that's where the rumours from retiring from playing are coming from. He wants to take over as coach. Did you? What did you make of that?
Like I said just now, I mean, I find it hard to disagree with him. Like, they're all logical points, and Stuart Broad always struck me as a fairly a man with his head screwed on to a certain degree. Let's say when he actually sits down and thinks about things calmly, right? I can't disagree with him too much. I mean, obviously you have to plan ahead a bit, like. You can't just do away with all future planning, but I can see exactly where he's coming from with the. I mean, obviously he's got a better idea of how things are going inside the England cricket team, and obviously you have to think about actually winning the tests that you're playing, because if it's obvious, isn't it? They're there, so you need to play those games and you need to win them, and if you do win them, that gives you a better platform to go on and actually plan what you want to do next, as opposed to fiddling around with everything to try and aim for some future target that's not particularly well defined. I love that he's come out and said it. I think that's excellent.
He said exactly what he thought publicly. You don't see that in any sport. They're like you're media trained, and you're supposed to not say what you think. Oh well, the man's been trying.
Stuart Broad's going to be dropped for the home game against Liverpool now.
It was pretty good. I mean, obviously he picked up the wickets and so on. Should we talk a little bit about what might happen in the rest of the test and where we think things might be heading? Unless anyone's got anything else from today. It did rain a lot.
Yeah, I just want to add to the volume about how great that was from Stuart Broad. Like, you don't see it in professional cricket, a player to say that. And and it was so strong. But he's spot on.
Well, that's a man who knows the management isn't going to be there next year, isn't it?
It's absolutely right. And I mean, Australia did that horses for courses with Scott Boland, worked out pretty well. How about England? Like he says, try and win a few games first before you think about 4 years' time. I mean, it's just bizarre. I mean, I'm all for long-term planning, and that's kind of my role at Leicestershire to some degree. But you've got to win matches too. You have to have some form of confidence. You can't just say, okay, well, it's going to be all right in 4 years' time. But we've seen it's not all right in 4 years' time because they're currently.
We like a football analogy, don't we? Imagine a manager coming in to take over Man United and being like, "Look, I've got this great plan where we're going to win the quadruple in 8 years." But you don't think you forget to actually pick a team for the first 2 seasons and you get relegated. You're not staying in a job, are you?
That's the thing. I mean, and it's a pretty smart management technique sometimes to buy you time when you talk about that long-term plan and stuff as well. Try and get patience from the directors or whatever. But it obviously hasn't worked this time at all. And I can basically, from Broad's comments, I assume that he's fully in favour of a Stevens, Rushworth, Anderson, and Broad lineup for the first match of the summer with the ball.
Yeah, take that, New Zealand. Right, fellas, tomorrow. In fact, before we talk about tomorrow and go on to talk about India v South Africa, we might have to lose Max. He's got to chair a meeting at 9. What are our predictions for tomorrow? Are England going to carry on heroically batting, maybe make it to the full 90 overs so that they can say we have technically lasted a day here? Are they going to secure the draw, Max?
I think we will be in a position where we have to bat for a day.
A day?
Yeah, I think Australia will probably finish us off reasonably quickly. And then they're going to come out and try and smash the ball all over the place for well, I don't know, a session, and then stick us in.
They're
Leave us 300.
They're 158 behind England. I think they'll want, if they can get that down to 120, I think they'll be pretty confident that they can draw this. I think Australia will need quick wickets in the morning, and the weather forecast isn't getting any better. Like there's gonna be more overs lost.
Yeah. Australia want to win this, and to win this, they've got to play aggressive cricket, and I think it could be quite exciting.
Well, we will see. I think boring draw. Dan, have you got any thoughts?
Well, I said before the series that the score was going to be something nil with something dependent on the weather, and I still hold with that. Really, yeah, it's the rain is going to save England. If anything saves England, it won't be their batting; it will be the rain. If they have to bat a day, I would say that the chances of them surviving it are very, very low. I've still got no confidence in this batting lineup at all, and if they're just it's just rain. It's just rain is the only thing that was saving them here.
Well, the good news is I've just checked this. There's a 75% chance of precipitation the whole day. So whichever hour you click at, there's a 75% chance it will be raining at that point in time. So. We've seen it's kind of squally showers. It's not necessarily consistent rain, or apart from for a couple of hours this morning, it tends to pass over. But it does seem like there'll be a little bit more time lost from this match. I'm looking ahead to Saturday. Similar story. Quite a lot of adverse weather in the area. Max, we're going to say goodbye to you now. Are you going to put that yourself on mute and
yeah,
so on?
Close the video and put myself on mute and leave you two to chat about the rest.
See ya.
With the World Chess Championship.
World Chess Championship.
Oh, World Chess Championship. Yeah. This is my gambit. Okay, so I think that maybe rained off matches, they should give more points for the first innings leader.
Hold on, sorry. I don't think I think there are other problems with the point system besides that for the World Test Championship. I think there are no. You get kind of unfairly penalised for a draw. There's no taking into account performances away from home, that sort of thing. I think probably it should be based on the series result rather than the Test match result, because that's normally how cricket and international at Test level is sort of organised. Did you win the series? I think you should get more points for winning the series and less on an individual Test basis.
Yeah, no, those are all very fair observations as well. It just seems a bit. It shouldn't be a situation where a team can score 416 for 8 and then bowl the other team out for like 280, 290
Yeah,
at the same point.
yeah.
Because of rain.
Right, let's talk about South Africa v India really quickly. We prefaced this. We did a special show for YouTube on this match after day 4, when it looked like it was going to be a bit of a thriller. I think South Africa needed 122 with quite a few wickets in the bank, but on a spicy wicket. Dan, they cruised home though, 243 for 3. How big a win do you think this is for the Proteas?
Gigantic. It's absolutely unbelievable. Look at their team compared to India, the resources they've got compared to in terms of the player pool and the talent available to them. It's an unbelievable victory. This is in the same week that Bangladesh beat New Zealand as well. I mean, both results really, really good for the game of cricket. The two, I think, considerable underdogs, especially Bangladesh in that case, have gone out and beaten big teams or successful teams.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see, because I think that sometimes Test cricket, a lot of the time, being really honest with you, it is a bit of a foregone conclusion a lot of the time. Like, in T20 there's a bit more variance because obviously it's a shorter format, and if one guy has a day out, then no matter how bad your team is, you can still win. Whereas in Test cricket, that doesn't happen. The longer format will lead to truer results. So it's great, I think, that all this has happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we've been talking about with respect to the Ashes, is that in Test cricket, if you are not the best team and you are playing in bad conditions and you don't perform to the very, very best of your ability, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose quite badly, quite often.
Yeah.
It's not people saying, the worst England team of all time. They probably aren't. They're probably just a little bit outgunned and playing away from home. And because you do get the true outcome most of the time in Test matches, it's that's what happens. And conversely, if you look at sort of the whole history of Test matches, there aren't that many, like really quite few massive underdog victories, like Bangladesh v New Zealand. That happens once every 20 years or something like that. Nearly. We were trying to think of sort of rough comparisons. When Sri Lanka chased 350 odd in the second innings to in South Africa. Was it Kusal Pereira got that 150 batting mainly with number 9, all numbers 9, 10 and 11. That was a pretty big outsider victory from an improbable
I think probably less so than the Bangladesh one.
Yeah, for sure. It's not. That's the only test I can think of in recent times that's even in the sort of ballpark in terms of what a win it was for the outsider. Maybe
it would have been like a good equivalent would have been if Ireland had won that game that they bowled England out for like 80 odd.
Yeah, that would have been that. We are talking that kind of territory. I think Dean Elgar, he finishes on 96 from 188. It was about as gritty as you'll ever see anyone be. And I think towards the end, I don't know if you caught much of this. He was really winding up Mohammad Siraj, who totally lost the plot. He's obviously getting under some of the Indian bowlers' skin.
Yeah, there was a little bit of beef in this match, wasn't there, in terms of the kind of the verbals throughout the 4 or 5 days, really, and a bit of amusing sledging from Pant at some points as well. So yeah, it seems like maybe there's not that much love lost between the two teams right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of niggle there. I think that sort of the way Dean Elgar bats, I think I can see how it would get under people's skin because it looks not very good, and yet he's sort of there scoring 96 runs and winning the match for his side, and he seems to be able to do this fairly regularly. He's one of those players that can look bad and can play mistimed shots, but for whatever reason, when he plays a mistimed shot, it seems less likely to go to hand or less likely to go up in the air. And I think I can understand why you'd be frustrated.
So he lasted like 120 balls in the first innings as well for 20 odds. So
Yeah.
This sort of frustrating innings as well, isn't that? Yeah.
From an India point of view, do you think they did anything wrong with the ball in chasing victory? Because to lose that by 7 wickets is quite a surprise.
I think that is a surprise, taking 240 on final innings with ease. I didn't see a lot of the chase, so it's difficult to really talk about tactics. But I don't know. I don't know. I look at the India bowling lineup. I'm still not massively convinced by it in terms of the pace options, at least from a general basis. I mean, obviously, Thakur, the Lord, took 7 for 61 in the first innings, but still not convinced about him long term.
You can't hose down the Lord, not after this performance. This was the first test he's ever lost, Dan. He averages 20.3 in Test cricket. He's got 24 wickets in 6 matches. Everything's coming down the Lord, and you're trying to tell me that he's not the future of fast bowling for world cricket. I don't think they did too much wrong. I thought Shardul Thakur bowled pretty well through the Test. There was a crack that helped him out a little bit. You still got to hit the crack, and he mainly did. The way he did over Markram on at the end of day 3 was really good bowling. I think I would probably chalk most of this up to a little bit of luck for South Africa. They did play a miss a few times, and you're going to need that if you're chasing 240. And Dean Elgar just having a bit of a day out. Sometimes good batters do good things. We go back to that probability curve and expected outcomes. Dean Elgar is occasionally going to go out and score 96 off 188 balls and grind you into the dust in tricky circumstances. That's what he's there for. Is to be the guy who can survive the Chanda pool, if you like, of the South Africa.
Dominic, it could have been like that for England.
Well, that's what they wanted from him, wasn't it? But then then they decided that they actually wanted, I don't know, Saywag, and he didn't score enough. I'd expect we'll see Dom Sibley back at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, James Vince, I reckon, as well will come back because it's just this thing where you're a better player when you're not in a losing team.
Yeah, well, that's definitely how England see it. I'm just going to have a quick look on Twitter. We had a couple of questions on Patreon and a couple on Twitter. VJ asked, how many ducks will England get this year? So do you want to play us an under-over on that now, Dan, for the year?
Yeah. How many games is there? Is there less games this year? Or
well,
more?
there's two. There's this one, and there's one more against Australia. There's 3, I think, away in West Indies. It might be 4. Maybe that got boosted up to 4. So let's say it was 3. That's 5. 6 home tests. That's 11. And then are they off to Pakistan in November for another 3 test series, but which could be 4 tests as well. So 14 matches.
14, yeah. That's less than 2021, which was 19.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, was there 54 ducks? Just under 3 a match. So we'll go for over under 40.
40.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under. I don't think they can be as bad twice.
I disagree with you. And I think this is what Ashley Giles said the other day in what was a pretty difficult interview to listen to. He said it's going to get worse before it gets better, and I actually agree.
I think they plumbed depth this year, and I think there's a couple of reasons for this. One, they picked a lot of the wrong players at the wrong time. 2, some of those players were retained for too long, and 3, they played basically back to back the best bowling attacks in the world. Take Sri Lanka out of it. Although they were in home conditions, but Embal Denyu's not in the best bowling attacks in the world, is he? They go to India and they play Akshar Patel and Ashwin in home conditions. They've got no chance. Like nobody has any chance there. You're cooked. Then they go to England. They play New Zealand. New Zealand they like bowling in England, don't they? They're more than comfortable rattling through England in England, and we'll see that again in the summer. Then they play India once more, and India have got a good bowling lineup. You know, Jasprit Bumrah is either 1 or 2 in the world, depending on what your criteria is. And then they go to Australia, and Australia at home with the bowlers they have, who have all been sort of fit, and the replacements that have come in have been good, are decent. So I don't think they'll have that perfect storm of, you know, being not very good at cricket, poor selection, and having to play elite players every single match. I think at least one of those is definitely going to be different this year.
Okay, so here I agree with you about the opposition difficulty. I agree with that, but away in West Indies is going to be tough. Pitches probably won't be the best. Probably going to be maybe quite spin friendly. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And we have to also remember a couple of other things. One, Joe Root had, in that 54 duck year, Joe Root had the season of all seasons, like an absolute worldy season. There's a pretty decent chance that he'll mean revert this year, to some extent at least. And also, batters just aren't very good. No matter who you pick, they're just not very good.
Yeah, for sure. But we're talking specifically about ducks here, and I think that their duck to match ratio is going to dip.
Okay. Well,
I don't see 54. I'm going to go under 40.
Under
Might not be a lot under 40. They're on 2 at the moment.
Maybe the line was a touch higher. Maybe due to a bit of action, we've revised it down to 37 or something.
37. I think 37's ballpark. That's I would expect. We're already on 2, so they 35 more across. You know, what was it, 13 more tests? That could definitely happen.
There's a pretty decent chance if it doesn't rain, they'll add to that in the next couple of days as well.
And then, sorry, let me just get Patreon up because I didn't do that earlier. We've got some questions in there. Patreon.com/thecricketpod if you would like to become a Patreon. Vineeth and Mark, the last 2 people to sign up. So thank you very much for patronising us. And seriouscricket.co.uk if you want to head across to see what our sponsors have got on offer. TCP10 is the code for 10% off cricket equipment there. Adam Dallimore on Patreon, and then we will wrap up. A bit off topic, but how long does it take? How long does it go on with Rishabh Pant? A fantastically talented player, but surely his game plan is somewhat flawed, and seems as though he doesn't value his wicket. Is Test cricket a stretch too far for Pant with a game that doesn't suit a moving ball? Where do you see the future of Rishabh Pant, Dan?
I think he is the future. I actually really like him, and I think his keeping's improved a lot over the last year or two in Test cricket. And let's not forget, his method has worked pretty well. I mean, he's averaging 37, and you know, apart from Joe Root, if England batter would give their right arm for that, you know, like I think there's bigger problems at play in Test cricket than Rishabh Pant right now. You know, like he's for a wicketkeeper batter. If you're averaging over 35, you're doing incredibly well. So there's not really much drama for me. I think that it's a bit like we've talked about this before about Glenn Maxwell in T20s, where like if you get out in like a kind of unconventional way a lot because of the way that you play, which has also been proven to be successful over a long period of time, that your bad shots are magnified a lot more, and so you're considered to like let the team down or whatever false narratives that there are basically. And yeah, I think that's pretty much where we're at.
Yeah, I think that's broadly true. I do think with Hunt that it's sometimes taken to a little bit of an extreme. I think he is of players in the top 6 in world cricket. He's an outlier in terms of how often he plays false shots and how often he gets out when he plays a false shot. He's also an outlier in terms of how quickly he scores and
there'll be a reverse between false shots and strike rate.
Well, yeah, there. So so he is capable of moving the game on, but he is doing things quite differently to other players. Now, I think in some situations, so I'm thinking World Test Championship final here, and I'm thinking this test most recently. I'm thinking in some situations you've got to have a little bit more game awareness before you go running down the wicket and trying to smash the ball out of the stadium. I think in this test, Rassie van der Dussen got to him. I think he was sledged out, but people seem to think that Richard Punt is like the master sledger. So I'm not sure how well that opinion will be received. But I think Rassie van der Dussen had a go at him about the drop catch. Pant said something back, and then he went to try and prove a point and got himself out. But I think the difference between an excellent player and an all-time great is that kind of moment. But there's no reason to get rid of him.
I think that it's also important to make the point that he's only just turned 24 years old in October. And how many 24-year-olds have played 27 test matches and averaging 37?
Not that many.
In the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, Cook probably did it, didn't he?
Probably arrived on a five-line sheet of paper.
Yeah, you are looking at the best of the best here, mainly, aren't you? And RK, at the time of posting, 5 English batters have scored more test runs than Joe Root in 2022, so I think that might be higher now. Congratulations. This could be the year when things turn upside down. What bold predictions, a la Crawley's predicted 113, that was me yesterday, will you make for the year and revisit in 359 days? So Dan, are there any wild predictions that you'll make this year for cricket in general?
Yeah, I'll talk about it because Joe Root was brought up. I've always sort of said that he'll mean revert, I think. And so my predictions for Joe Root is that he'll average less this year than he did last year, which is a pretty conservative prediction. Now, I'm going to go for a little bit more of a controversial prediction as well. My other prediction is that England are going to have a lower win percentage this year than they did last year.
They're going to be lower.
Yes.
That I think. All right. So the first one, Joe Root not to do as well. I think that will probably happen because he's been so good this year. I mean, he's had one of the all-time great years. But I think England are going to beat West Indies and beat South Africa over those Test series and win a Test against New Zealand at home. So I think there'll be a better team this year based on win percentage. But we'll see.
Like get a new manager bounce, like we do in football.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Allardyce in and stave off relegation to the B League. Finally, I'll just read out Rajat's super chat. Hey guys, Bairstow played very well. Counter attack. This kind of fight was all that we expected from England. Hope this continues. England's still behind the Test. Yeah, I think we can echo that. We're going to wrap up now. With just one more reminder, Serious Cricket are sponsoring this show, TCP10, for 10% off cricket equipment there. Now we've wrapped up. In the show notes, just go down into the show notes and click the link to do that. Thanks for coming on, Dan, and I'll see you later. Bye. Cheers, Dan.